Hi, I'm Isaac,
And I'm Faith.
and welcome to
To
the
the
We Didn't Plan This podcast. Okay, Faith, what are we talking about today?
Well, so today's episode is about the script we didn't write. So basically, I mean, we've grown up in Singapore and life has younged us in a pretty standard direction, from school to med school and now adulthood. How do we escape this fixed script? And how do we find a greater sense of self-identity from there?
So today we're gonna really dive into the origin stories from when we were fetuses just crawling around. So the first thing I want to know, Faith, is what do you want to be when you were a kid, like a kid, and that was way before you knew what was realistic, practical, what earned money was prestigious.
Yeah, I know, right? Before kids can think about how much does a condo cost and how much do I need to pay for kids' diapers and whatnot, right?
Mhm.
I think I wanted to be a few things when I was a kid. I mean, okay, for girls it's very generic. Like you see all the other girls in tutus, you're like, oh, I want to be a ballerina. And then no, my parents decided not to send me to ballet class because my mom's a doctor. I mean, my parents are doctors, so my mom was like, no, you'll mess your feet and ankles up. So I was like, okay, ballerina out. And then next thing, dinosaurs. Kids always get dinosaur books, right? So when you look at it, you're like, so cool. I want to go and dig up dinosaurs. Yeah, so I went through a whole paleontologist phase where I bought, this sort of kits where you just chisel away and dig stuff up. And then I was like, okay, never mind. Paleontologists have to be like, oh, under the hot sun. Maybe I'll be an astronaut instead. And then I realized I get motion sick, so I literally can't be an astronaut. I can't get my brain centrifuged. And I don't live in America, so yeah.
Yeah, a lot of dinosaurs you see on a day-to-day
Yeah, it's
basis
okay.
now.
Yeah, now we see dinosaurs in the clinic. So I guess we are paleontologists and we discover new things about them too. So what about you? What did you want to be?
Sort of a fun fact, right? So I remember that when I was 5 years old, 6 years old, I gave this kindergarten presentation, complete with a flip chart and everything. And I proclaimed to my kindergarten class that I wanted to be the Minister of Health in Singapore.
Well, what?
I don't know where.
A flip chart and the Minister of Health is very niche.
Yes, I don't know where that came from. Like I don't even know like what the conversation was with my parents was. I know they kind of enabled it, and then they got me to like, they helped me print things like, the hospital and whatever. And then I was just flipping it. I think as a 5-year-old kid, I just like the idea of power. Health, I don't know why. Okay, I'm not sure why. In this day and age, I guess if we Minister of Health also involves being a good TikToker. So
Yes.
that was the job scope, but that dream died pretty quickly. So I think like you, much of the other things I wanted involve. I wanted to be like a soldier and jump out of helicopters at some point in time. I used to have those like toy
Wow.
sets, and
Oh
because
yeah, the plastic ones.
yeah. And I didn't have any siblings. So how I used to play with them was that I would take the toy soldiers and just smash them against each other until the heads fell off.
Oh, okay, so that was
Yeah.
war, right?
Yeah, there was war, and I think the minute I hit puberty and any sense of sentience, I completely lost any semblance of wanting any sort of occupation. So
Fair enough. It's honestly the best thing nowadays. I mean, kids nowadays say they want to be YouTubers or TikTokers, right? Like that's honestly a much better job than having to go to uni and study and grind and be in debt. Like I mean, TikToking is just you just need a phone.
yeah, you don't have HR on if you're a TikToker.
Yeah, our life choices.
So I guess this was when we were teeny tiny kids, right?
Yeah.
When we grew up a bit, was there a first moment you started feeling expectations or the need to become something?
I think for me, it probably hit when I was maybe in primary four. So, like in P1 to 3, I was in a chill neighborhood school. Everyone was just like la di da, just pass your exams, go to the affiliated secondary school. So no one really had to aim very high. And then suddenly, when I went into RGPS for GEP, gifted education program, suddenly everyone else around me was super competitive. Everyone was going for like Olympiads and building their portfolios and participating in competitions and public speaking and robotics and everyone was so smart and overachieving at like 10 years old. Now I was like, oh crap, I mean, if this is the new crowd that I'm with, I have to at least match them or be better than them. So it literally just pushed me into a next tier of pressure, I guess, from society.
Where was there a point where the idea of medicine or law or engineering or any of these big buzzwords pop into the picture?
Oh yes, a secondary school for sure. I mean, like Raffles is literally just everyone talking about law scholarships and whatnot, like right from the start, even from Sec One. Yeah, how's it for you?
I feel that it's kind of similar in the sense that when I hit a certain age, it wasn't so much that it felt competitive per se. I think boys are a little bit more mischievous,
Uh-huh.
far less mature, right?
Mm.
But it felt more like it's normalized to be a high achiever. Like
Mm.
all my smartest friends were somehow national track and field athletes,
Yeah.
were doing some sort of like international drama competition at the
Mhm.
same time. So it
Mhm.
always felt like good marks and good exam results were like just the basic. And then you have to do something extraordinary on top of that, on top of that. And then that's just the natural course that life goes.
Yeah, I agree. So like, I mean, I've mentioned this to some friends who were not from the similar like Raffles education background. I mean, in Raffles, I mean, in like, you know, the better schools, even though it's not politically correct to say that, like the expectation is that everyone is already doing well and you have to bolster your portfolio even more to be more impressive than all your peers. But in like any other school, like just getting those sort of grades or having or just being a national swimmer with like bad grades, you would still be the most impressive person around. But in Raffles, it's just like, oh, that's just another one of how many people who are already that impressive. And like you need to do even better. You need to do more because it's never enough.
Yeah, and it just feels like you keep going and doing like more and more and
Mm.
more things, right? Like
Yes.
you see your friends and then you see them in a competition and
Yeah.
then I feel like CCAs and all those other like
Mm.
music and all that. It's a very funny melting pot because
Mm.
that's probably like the first time you get to see your friends outside as well. And then you
Mm.
realize it's much more diverse, right?
Yeah.
I remember so there's this very, very fun anecdote that was like throughout my 4 years in school. Our coach was this guy with very extreme practices. So what we used to do is that we are sitting at competition, right?
Mm.
If we are not warming up or if we're not competing, we are forced to study. Like
Mhm.
he will make us sit. And then he said, you must face the hill at, MacRitchie has like a little hill behind.
Yeah.
So he would tell us like we must face the hill. We cannot even watch other people's races and we must look at our books and then study. And then we felt like, for lack of a better word, we felt like very toot like that,
Yeah.
because we were all just holding our
Yeah.
map worksheet and then like
Yeah, you can't even enjoy
sleeping.
the view. You
Correct,
can't even
correct,
watch
correct.
the sport. Oh,
Correct.
wait, that was hardcore. What was his rationale? Or and like, did you guys eventually appreciate that he was so academics focused?
No, I don't think any of us appreciated anything at all. But he was a man of movies. Okay, so there was this
Mm-hmm.
movie that he really took inspiration from
Mm.
called Coach Carter. It's like a Disney film, but it's
Uh-huh.
about this. I think it was Samuel L. Jackson, who
Who
played.
was the coach?
Yeah, he's the coach of a
Mm.
basketball team of
Uh-huh.
inner city Chicago school, and then
Mm.
he brings all these boys to finally play basketball. But he has this line that says, "You are student athlete, student comes first," and then he got very obsessed with that. So
Oh
so
no.
yeah, that kind of guided the
Yeah, so you
philosophy.
definitely had your own coach Carter.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of adults were always making decisions for us when we were growing up, right? Like, so looking back, how much of your path was chosen versus just, followed and dictated for us?
It felt like a lot of the path
Mm.
was just going with the flow. I think, the normal narrative is always that people feel very pressured into things. I think that holds true for a lot of people, right? Mom and dad say, okay, you either go to engineering school and as a backup, go to medical, something like that,
Yeah.
right? But I think for a lot of us as well, it is a much subtler pressure where you feel that, okay, that is a very obvious default option, and then you go with it. I was an arts kid through secondary school, JC, and I mean, that in itself also wasn't really something I felt I'd chosen per se. It just felt that I retrospectively look at all my results. I happened to write a little bit better than I balance equations. And then you just go with it, right? Like, I don't think at any point in my secondary school life I decided, yeah, I really like English or I really like history or something like that. And then you just go with it. And then you hit, higher education where you choose university. And then it just felt like, okay, everyone around me is going to study law or econs or politics. And I feel like
the art stream
exactly
generic
exactly
and
is the art stream
courses.
bubble, right? And then
Yeah.
so then if not business as a great catch-all for if you don't like any of those other things, right? So just I remember that I think this was something I talked about before, but it was literally just a matter of me and my friends sitting in a Chinese takeout restaurant, writing this pact on a napkin that says we will all go to the UK and study law together, and then we sign on the napkin.
And then did you guys really?
And then we all made it.
Oh
We all
my
made
gosh.
it.
Well, I mean that worked, and you got to go to uni with your friends. It's nice.
Right. So it felt like, in summary, it wasn't so much forced, but it definitely wasn't chosen either. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, so much of our time in school was literally just spent studying or like just chasing the next milestone. So we didn't have time to actually sit by ourselves and think about what we're interested in. It was always just, you know, timetables and routines and exams. Like I think kids need breathing space and time to like try as many new things as they're possibly interested in. Yeah, I mean like I would have probably appreciated having time to explore the arts, explore a bit of the science, like maybe a liberal arts school or something, rather than just going straight into medicine without having tried a bit of everything else to be sure that I really wanted medicine.
Yeah, it's that
Yeah.
space to wonder and to dream, right? And
Yeah.
I feel now in the world of TikTok, now you
Mm.
see, I think there's a lot more where kids can see other kids doing weird and funny things. I've
Yeah.
seen like 15-year-old fitness influencers, like they look like really jacked up,
Oh my
and
gosh.
then they're like posting content, and then
Mm.
you see people who are like, oh, I dropped out of poly or JC to go
Yeah.
and day trade full time and things like that.
Yeah,
And
or like that guy who just draws stickers or something. I think
yeah,
it's so
yeah.
cool. I mean, without social media, we wouldn't have known that those were even options. But now that we know these are options, you realize that it's possible to actually achieve success in a less traditional path.
Yeah, and I feel like even if that winds you up back at the what we call default, like
Mm,
if you end up getting rid of your business or your day trading like
mm,
loses you all your piggy bank money and you just end up studying
mm.
anyway. I think that's another life experience that really guides you to somewhere where you feel like you're really making that choice because it's like right now you realize that in this whole 12 years, right? We finish primary school, finish secondary school, you finally the first choice you actually make is choose uni degree, which is sometimes a
Yeah,
false choice as well.
yeah. You just roll
And
into it with the rest of your peers.
exactly. And then by the time you start choosing a job, then there's all the time and the money pressure already. And
Yeah,
yeah, I wish kids had the chance to look around and just wonder and dream and do things that feel stupid.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, like overseas, I feel like the kids really have a lot more time to explore, and they're actually encouraged by their parents and school to explore rather than just commit into a very specialized track.
And
Yeah.
on that same note, though, I feel like there's a lot of nuance to this also, right? There's
Okay.
definitely a lot of things that the system or our notion of meritocracy
Mm,
kind of does right.
mm.
So I don't know what's your 2 cents on what some of the best things and the worst things about it are.
The schools, I mean, if you're a good student, you get into a good school, but I mean, that's also influenced by so many other factors. Like even, I mean, within the better school environments, the kids generally come from, at least middle income families and above because they're not struggling, stressing about bills, stressing about working part-time jobs, and their parents can actually provide them adequate support. So, I mean, I guess we are privileged
Mm.
that we've managed to make the best use of the meritocracy, like with our already better starting point than most, and being able to make this life for ourselves. Yeah, even though I feel like sometimes there's really way too much emphasis on, just grades and achievement. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's really two sides to this coin
Mm,
as well, because I think what the system does really well is
mm,
that compared to many other places, we are in a place where if you do well academically, I feel you really get a leg up compared to a lot of other places. Like when I went to
mm.
uni, it felt like actually Singapore was the only country where the people from here who are studying abroad are not all people who have two houses. I thought it was very interesting because from most other countries, let's say in the
Mm,
region or in East Asia, a lot of them
mm.
are the ones who've been exclusively to international schools.
Yeah, there's the super rich clique that like you can't get into
Yeah,
unless if you're already born into it.
yeah, so even if you're, in whatever local system it
Mm,
is and you do super, super well, there never really is a global, it never feels like there's like a global path that's allowed
mm,
to you. Whereas in Singapore, I think maybe it's part of like the narrative that we are a very
mm,
global city. Singaporeans go everywhere and then
mm.
thrive and then come home
Yeah.
to serve the nation, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It does help. And I feel like that's something the system does kind of well. Like if you
Mm,
thrive, it does help you. But I think the flip side to that is that like you said, there's so much there's a lot of inequity, and I
yeah.
feel that it comes at both this economic level as well as at
Mm,
this individual, cultural, or social level. Because let's say if you take two kids who have an
mm,
equal amount of finances, right?
uh,
I actually spoke to one friend in uni, and
mm.
he's from Victoria. Okay,
Oh,
so
okay, okay,
so
yeah.
Victoria has like a really really good, really stringent O level cutoff.
Mm,
But he told me that when he told his teachers that he wants to go to the UK to a top school to study, apparently they laughed at him, you know.
Wait, that's so
So
rude.
they just told him like, there's no way you can make it. And he
Why or why
was
not?
a straight A scorer and everything like that.
Mm.
So then it told me that actually, you know, even when you have the financial means and even when you have the grades, sometimes there's all these individual confounders. And these, you know, like it really depends on who you end up meeting. And I think similarly on that note, I absolutely feel like, you know, despite all that the system has done, there's a lot of inequality. Like the simple fact that, you know, you see so many people in June holidays, they get to go for Olympiads, summer camps, some even abroad.
Yeah.
And then I guess the average thing to do might be, go and like work at Chati, you know, and like just get a job, chill out with your friends.
Or like go Malaysia for a short holiday with your family.
Yeah, and it's just not told to you that you must, not that either one is better than the other. I feel like I would have much rather worked at Chati than train every single day. But yeah, there's a lot of these variances, right?
I guess it's just like the differences in access to opportunities and options to try things. Like could have chosen to work part-time, but for some kids, I guess they're forced, like they really have no choice. And you need the pocket money.
And for some kids, in between, in fact, most kids, then that's just a default. Like there's no need to do it. Maybe they want to use it to get some additional TikTok credits or whatever.
I guess as long as they're having fun and exploring, honestly, no harm either way.
Yeah. And I guess, I mean, the take home is that, you know, there's so many things about systems, and there's no perfect one in the world, right? But then, okay, as we grow older, then I guess we interact in our industry with the system in a different way. Right?
Yeah.
We are known for having all of us be part of a bond, right? So we graduate into a system where we have to serve a certain number of years, most of us around 5 or 6, and that even overseas grads come back, they serve for a few years as well. It's 5 including the
houseman. Yours is so yours is housemanship plus a 4-year bond,
correct,
and then for undergrad medicine it's a housemanship plus a 5-year
plus
bond.
5.
So basically,
yeah, and I mean
our whole like 20s and 30s.
Well, sorry, I mean, you know, it's not the only profession where you see bonds, but I think it's probably the one that everyone is on. Much more people that are on a bond than people who aren't. So when you signed it, how do you feel?
Honestly, wait, what was your bond signing process like? Ours was, we literally just went to the MOH Harbourfront office. The MOH Harbourfront office, we sat down with a bunch of other students and the parents were like just standing behind us, and we just signed on like don't know how many pages of the document, and that was it. Like we didn't even really think about how much it would cost and stuff. We were just so grateful to get in. Yeah, so we were Stockholm from the start. Well, how was it for you?
It was a little bit different actually. I don't think I even had an in-person thing.
Oh, was it during COVID?
It was during COVID. So it was super detached. It was a PDF, and then
oh no, you just docu-signed it.
Yeah, docu-signed
your future.
Yeah, I docu-signed my entire future to the tune of 700,000.
Yeah, your bond is more expensive than ours. That's a horrible idea. I'm sorry for your loss.
And I don't know, like I think there's like same but also different in the sense that I guess when I did it, I was a little bit older because graduate medicine, all that stuff.
Yeah.
What was similar though was I feel like, you know, when you do it, it just feels like a moment in time. I mean, obviously, rationally, you know that this is X number of years. I'm sure you weren't completely blind to the fact that that, you know, you have your other friends going off to uni.
You can do the math and it's like,
blah, blah, blah.
It's a fair trade-off.
Right.
Something.
But it doesn't hit when you do it.
Yeah, somehow the enormity, like when you're signing at 18 or 20 something, like the idea of locking in med school plus another how many years, it's like a decade of your life just signed away quickly. You think that in that moment, because you want it so badly, that yes, of course I can push through, even if it's tough, I'm determined, I love this, I want to do this. And then suddenly when you're going through, you're like, maybe not, but it's too late. Yeah, did it feel like that to you, or because you chose this more intentionally?
I think it was somewhere in between, in that I definitely thought twice, thrice, 4 times, and 5 times before I even put my name into the mix, right? Because you know, you have a very clear juxtaposition where even bond aside, right, you're submitting yourself to another 4 years of study, which is 4 years not earning and 4 years not gaining experience in a field you might
Yeah.
already be
Oh yes,
qualified
the
in.
opportunity cost, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So it felt intentional. But at the same time, I think it's another thing to go through it also. So when you started off in your early training, how were there points where you felt your relationship with the bond or your relationship to this career evolved from
Well,
that?
obviously, as someone who broke my bond very early on, I obviously knew I wanted to do something other than just work in a hospital all the time. Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm passionate about clinic work and creative work. So when I was in hospital, I was just like, oh no, I'm just going through the motions. I'm duty bound. Therefore, I will show up and do my work responsibly and well. But like, am I necessarily the happiest or most fulfilled? And do I feel like this is the best use of my time? Maybe not. Yeah, so I guess I emotionally struggled a bit.
Was it more of a gradual process for you, or was there a certain pivotal moment or two or three that made you go from, okay, I'm starry-eyed and I'm in Vivo City, lovingly jumping into a new tomorrow, and then you go from that to like, oh, maybe I will join family medicine residency. And then from there, it was like,
Yeah, it
okay,
just goes,
bye-bye.
it's just all downhill, right?
Yeah.
Because I
How's
mean,
that?
yeah, I mean, when you're 18, you're like, you're so proud of yourself, and everyone is so happy for you when you get into medicine. So it's like you're so happy to sign this thing because you have this magic contract that no one else has. You've got your job settled until you're 30. You're gonna get trained well. You're gonna, come out as with like, a more prestigious career than most people. And then suddenly, as you like adult and you see other friends going on overseas exchange trips, living a life and learning so much more outside of medicine, you just realize that maybe you picked a bit too early and you're missing out on all those things that you could have been more interested in, but at the same time you will never know because we didn't have the time to fully explore any of that also. So it's always just a big what if. So I think wanting to pursue that what if was a big motivator in me wanting to leave.
Were there any moments where you felt like you tried to pursue the what if, let's say within those constraints, be it medical mission trips, or be it, like being more involved in the university, or yeah, were there any attempts that you made in that whole journey that you tried and then maybe you got some momentary reprieve, or you tried and then you're like, oh, actually this is really very sad?
Oh my no! So I always wanted to do like an art and craft business. So I ran a cute little handicraft shop like during COVID. It was like doing nothing the fifth year of med school. So it was my final year and studying, but I had time, so I was just making cute little trinkets, and I was like, hey, this is actually quite a cozy life, but also not financially sustainable in Singapore. So every time I wanted to explore something different, like journalism or filmmaking, then I'll look up the salary. I'll be like, oh crap, the hours are also really bad and the pay is like 10 times worse probably. I was like, never mind, I'll just stay the path for now. When I have enough money, I will pursue those things, but from a more like financially stable standpoint. Yeah, but how was it for you?
I mean, I guess I'm more at the time point where it was, so we're at slightly different stages. I now reached the point where
Yeah,
you made that decision, I feel.
yes.
And I suppose I have a very fraught relationship with this, right? Because in many ways I started it out knowing, okay, there's certain sacrifices that need to be made. My time, my sanity, my money. I'm not gonna keep going down the list because that's very depressing.
Yeah.
But the point is that I knew it rationally. So I guess it made it okay to stomach as I was going along. At the same time though, I felt as if, especially when I was studying, when my friends were getting their first promotion, that normally comes maybe like 2 years out of your graduation, all that, right? Okay, first promotion, first overseas posting, first leadership kind of role, right? And then that's when I was like, yeah, I'm still a med student wearing student scrubs, like trying to like meekly knock on some door to ask if some junior MOs who are probably younger than me want to sign a form for me. And then that, I think those moments really made me question like what on earth is it I'm doing with my life,
Yeah, like why are you here?
And then you move on from there, and then I guess you start going into it. And I guess with all things, it's an everyday where you know that it will feel like a job. Like I don't think any job, even starting an art and craft business, enjoyable all the time. It starts feeling like work. That's the 80%. You live with it, you go over it. I spend my time typing things and calling specialties and rooms for
Yes.
scans and all, which whatever, you make peace with that. And then you enjoy the 10 to 20% of time where you actually feel like you're doing the thing you came here to do. But it's very up and down throughout, I
Yeah, it's like
suppose.
which one are you most willing to suffer for? Which path is the most worth it in the long
Exactly.
run?
Exactly. And I don't know, when you first started, do you feel like there were any nice moments that really anchored you? Or was it just more of the misery?
I mean, I guess it's always an up and down, right? So it's
Yeah,
like
right.
it's the ups that pull you back in
Yeah.
and keep you from like absolutely just walking out of hospital and being like, I'm not doing this call anymore. I'm out by, you know. I guess the ups were always the patience, like patient
Mm,
interactions, because you realize you actually really are making a discernible improvement in your life, even if you're just the one ordering the medicine. You're not even thinking of the plans because your seniors do that for you. But I mean, just knowing that one small action can actually, turn someone's health around. You feel like, okay, I'm donating my health and sanity to help someone else. It's not like, a zero sum game. Like there's actually a net positive and we're not damaging the world or we're not, stealing money from companies like, sorry, private equity people. Yeah, I mean, we're doing good. Even if it sucks, we suck it up, I guess.
yeah, I
Or maybe
feel
we're just
like
brainwashed.
yeah, maybe,
Yeah, but
maybe,
it feels
maybe.
good.
I feel like there are those redeeming
Mm,
moments, right? Where actually on the walk here,
mm,
I was scrolling again, and I saw this. Nowadays it's very popular to have these accounts where like they anonymously post a lot of details about day in the life of a
mm.
investment banker,
Yeah, yeah.
consultant,
Uh-huh.
whatever. And then I was seeing someone's IB diaries,
Mm.
and it's in Singapore also, so it's
Oh.
very close to home. So
Mm.
so I was like watching them about their day in the life and replying emails at 12 midnight every
Oh
night.
my gosh, I would not want to
And
be an
then,
investment banker at
yeah.
all. That sounds gross.
And I was like, okay, at least when I order the Panadol,
Yeah. Yeah.
the kid says that they are feeling better.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not
especially
that
now that
bad,
now that you're doing pediatrics.
Yeah. So I guess there are those moments. And like we
Mm,
talk about how it's such an up and down throughout,
mhm.
net positive, net negative, whatever. Did you ever, on a more meta level, step back and think, oh, actually, am I being a bit ungrateful to this path, or am I not being so true to the person I once was? Were there ever moments where you looked at yourself looking?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, there's always these moments of doubt where you're like, hey, I'm in such a privileged position. People would literally cut off an arm and a leg to take our job and to have a chance to serve and work hard and, heal people. So it's like, are we being too entitled or are we too much of a strawberry to be saying that, oh, this job is tiring, I don't want to do it, or I want an easier version of it? But at the same time, I don't feel like we should silence ourselves and say that it's okay when it's not, or pretend that we are like 100% grateful for the job. I think people going in need to know both sides, like
Yeah.
the good and the bad, and figure out their reasons and how they weigh both of them. It's like, is the good enough for them to stay and push on for like a decade, or it's like, is the bad part too sucky that they actually need to leave for their own like health or mental health, or maybe they don't even want to apply for medicine after they after they realize what it
Mm.
actually entails. But yeah, did you ever feel like questioning it was ungrateful?
I think definitely, definitely, because
Mm.
if you think about it, all of this was in a way extra. Like I quite
Mm.
literally asked for this. Not
Yes.
not I mean even by itself, I suppose you could say that doing a degree at all is
Mm.
not strictly compulsory. Much as I think a lot of people try to get one, but doing an additional degree
Yeah.
is definitely not
Yeah, it's
necessary,
not
right? It's a
conventional, your path of 2 degrees.
Exactly. So then I think every single time I felt the littlest bit of discontentment.
Mm.
There's this like self-flagellation going
Oh
on
yeah,
that
yeah.
is
I
like,
think we're very good at that.
yeah, we're extremely good at that. And then you're like, so but you made this up for yourself, right? So
Mm.
what can you do about it? And do I have an honest answer to would I have taken a parallel path? I don't entirely think that I would be much happier in an alternate universe
Mm.
as well. On that note, like when you said the arm and a leg thing, do you know the latest word on the ground is that there are certain postings. So I'm trying to go to A&E next for a while, and then apparently it's getting competitive enough that there are some people who want residency and they volunteer to do a 3 month. Because okay, our postings are in 6 month blocks when we are medical officers, right? Okay, there's centralized exercise, and these people apparently volunteer to do no pay leave, 3 month work for free, 1 month work for free stint, just so that they can be in these departments.
Just so they can beat the queue and prove that they're more dedicated by not
Correct.
being paid and
Correct.
wow.
Correct.
I don't know, I'm sorry, the mental gymnastics taken to do that is really quite impressive. I mean, it must be dedicated, but like, what's the point? To what end?
Yeah, to what end,
Like,
right? To what end? That's the
suddenly if everyone
question.
decides that they want to do 3 month unpaid postings, then the bar suddenly becomes 6 month or 1 year unpaid posting and do
Yeah.
somersaults while you're at it or something.
Yeah, we should just volunteer, I guess.
I mean, yeah, hey, a big idea for the Ministry of Health, right?
Yeah.
Just get everyone to volunteer. You don't need to pay your healthcare workers anymore. There's no such thing as wages, so you can't complain that it's too low.
But yes, that is one thing. I hope it's isolated as it is.
It's crazy. I have not heard of that. But
right. And
respect for those who chose to do that.
Truly. And I guess, all this said and done, was there a version of you can imagine that went in a completely different direction? Because I guess I was talking about a parallel universe, wherever that might be, right? Do you have like a real living version of you that is somewhere?
I feel like maybe some version of me, if I had gone into like, caring less about grades and just going into the arts, I would probably have gone to a liberal arts school in like the US or done journalism or something much artsier. And I'll probably have come back to Singapore, work in like SPH and get disillusioned. Like, I don't know, one of my friends worked in SPH is like a journalist and she did pretty well for herself, but she was so disillusioned by the end of her bond. Yeah. So, I mean, I saw her life and what she was going through. At first, I used to envy her. I was like, oh, it's so cool. You get to meet all these people, talk to them, interview them, write stories. You get to fly overseas to just try something new and write about it. But then when I saw like everything that goes on behind the scenes, I realized, okay, maybe everything we dream a job to be might not actually be that glamorous once we live it. Yeah, so it's just we live with our choices. But yeah, for you, is there some parallel universe of you where you're like some lawyer in the UK or
No,
what's your parallel universe?
The parallel universe is my friends who stayed and walked the path. And I mean, I'm just going to say that some of the parallel universes ain't looking very pretty right now. Like genuinely, as much as, I don't think our hours are the most human by any stretch of the imagination. I am somehow privileged to be acquainted with friends who work even more.
Yeah, it's like it's somewhere that's always worse, right?
Yeah, for arguably not wages that are not that much higher in terms of purchasing power in wherever country in the world that is. I mean, I do know friends who get like 3 times the pay and go on 4 times the skiing holidays.
Yeah.
But that's you can't compare upwards. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it's okay. We don't want to write emails at 12 p.m.
Yeah. You compare you now and parallel universe you. I guess we're talking about identities, right? And how much, it's so much of our personality that we are doctors, medical people, whatever, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel that identity has kind of played out for you? Like, do you think you've ended up in a place where that is a really big defining part of your identity? Do you feel like that's a good thing, bad thing, or thoughts?
I feel like, okay, so I suppose this answer can be divided into like, med friends versus non-med friends. So like, I mean, among med people, instantly when you hear someone's a doctor, straight away you've got all these things in common. You're like, hey, which posting, where do you study? Or like, oh, which year do you graduate? Oh, do you know these people? So straight away there's like a very nice, solid bunch of topics that you can talk about and relate to. So like, I guess when I'm hanging with med people or like medical adjacent folk, it's very easy to just completely lean into that part of the identity. In which case, the conversations at dinner often become just like either complaining sessions. You hear them complaining about, oh, I'm on call again, the roster is shit, the pay is shit. Oh, how much do you earn outside? But at least you've got this established base of knowledge. But with like non-medical people or people who I met for the first time, I often try not to really highlight that like I'm a doctor or like because you number one don't want to be seen as like showing off. Or like, and number two, you don't want people to just keep asking about health stuff afterwards, which kind of happens quite a bit, right? And like number three, you also don't want to like alienate them or make them feel awkward around you, like especially if they're, doing something less traditionally like successful or prestigious. Yeah, so I feel like I would self-censor in those kind of circumstances versus like with met people, just let it loose. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I actively conceal.
Yeah,
I very
yeah,
actively
yeah.
conceal it.
Wait,
Like,
no, imagine if you go around telling people you have a law and med degree, people would just be like,
yeah,
bruh.
I do not share that. It's like I'm predominantly, first line is that I'm self-employed.
Mm.
Uh,
Wow.
second line
No,
is
no,
in
you're employed by MOHH. You have to say
yeah.
it contractually. I'm sorry.
Yes, I am. And then like I talk about the things I do, I talk
Mm.
about things I do professionally outside my
Uh-huh.
hobbies and
Mm.
all that. And then if the thing actually comes up like, oh, I'm on shift tomorrow, that
Mm.
kind of thing. Sorry, I
Yeah.
cannot make it.
Yes.
Then that is like, yeah, I work in a hospital.
Yeah. As a healthcare worker.
Yeah.
Like rather than just saying, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah,
doctor.
yeah. I feel like that word is hard to come out of the mouth.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But I think, that whole idea about professional identity and
Mm.
all, it feels like it becomes a lot more valuable when it's a setting where it's not commonplace, meaning that if you meet new people and then they have this like very full idea of who you are,
Mm.
like when I go diving, I went on a trip recently,
Mm.
and what I love the most about diving is that it's like one of those activities where people completely dissociate from who they are on land.
Yeah.
Like you go there and you literally, like, it's this like unwritten social contract where the minute you step onto the boat, right,
Mm.
like everyone is just chatting about the sea
The
and
dive
then the
itself, right?
fish
You're
and
just
then
in the
yeah,
moment.
yeah, yeah, and then like how they got there, and then
Mm.
like the transfer got delayed, and then you start talking about other things like your
Mm.
what you do, where else you've been, and all that.
Mm.
And then like maybe on day 3 or day 4, people actually curiously might ask if you're on your phone emailing, like, oh, what do you do for work? You're very busy,
Mm.
and I think in a way that can feel very liberating as well, because you
Mm.
you get a chance to build up that persona, as to who you want to be, I guess, in the entrepreneurial space,
Mm.
and just trying to like strike it out on your own. Not everyone in the longevity space is a doctor by training also, right? So how
Mm.
has that been for you? Like how do you think that personal brand
Mm.
formation has been so far?
Yeah, I guess now that I'm sort of just freelancing around, I don't really have a need to like walk into a room and be like I'm a doctor. It's more of like, hey, I'm doing all these cool things. What hobbies do we have in common that we can like bond over so that there's less awkward small talk. I don't know. I'm pretty bad at small talk, so I normally just try and find things that we have in common. So I think I try to actually move away from my identity as a doctor in like new social situations and just see like how can I relate to you as a human? Because I mean, people just want to be known, right?
And
Yeah.
it does feel like after that is established,
Mm.
the professional identity, when it comes on top of it, then becomes a very good thing. Because
Yeah.
then people know you first, right?
Mm.
And then I suppose you reap the hidden benefits of people thinking that, I suppose, you're a bit more reliable.
Oh yeah,
People
yeah.
assume that
Yeah,
you
it's
know what
true.
you're
It's not
talking
even about the
about.
medical knowledge. It's just like
Right,
the assumed
right, right.
competence. Like if you meet maybe a lawyer, you'll be okay to say that, oh hi, I'm a doctor, or like to
Yeah.
prove that you are like on the same tier intellectually, or like or whatever in terms of how competent or professional you might be. Of course, these are all just assumptions, but I
Yeah.
mean, society operates on assumptions.
Yeah, and I think it then just comes down to different environments and
Mm.
what's considered currency, right? Like I
Yeah.
think,
So yeah, social currency, right? Social
yeah,
capital.
I've been into those, like, those startup events and all
Oh,
that,
oh
and
my gosh, just networking things. See, if you put a doctor on your name tag,
yeah,
you get like people
yeah,
coming to you.
and I feel like that the social currency in that situation is like not it's like unpleasant for a whole set of other ways also, where
Mm.
sometimes you get in a room where people are just too eager to elevator pitch you, and
Yeah.
like the elevator feels like it's 100 stories, and then it's like, yeah, I literally can ask like, oh, how is the food, and then, oh, do you know there's an app that does this? And then you just sit there and then like eat
Yeah,
your
yeah,
chicken, and then
just
you're
forced
just like,
into yeah.
really. And then I was at this other Block 71 event the other day, and then I had
Mm.
this person who okay, essentially what this person does was something along the lines of marketing and sales stuff. So I was
Mm.
like genuinely, so
Yeah, that's
I was
cool. Yeah.
genuinely like asking, can you support this kind of service if I want to regionally expand into more of Southeast Asia? And then I received this whole like platitude about how this guy only supports post-revenue businesses instead of pre-revenue businesses.
He was basically saying you're too broke to hire.
Yeah, and then I was like, you don't even know what I do. Can you chill out, please?
Oh my gosh.
So
He probably, maybe it's a compliment, he thinks you're young.
yeah, I would like to think that. I would like to think
Oh
that.
my gosh.
So different social currencies in different situations, and I think our personas kind of it's tough to navigate. Like the personas you deploy.
Yeah, you just like code switch.
Exactly. Like you want just enough credibility, but you don't want to overcompensate.
Yeah, you don't want to seem like you're showing off.
Correct. The one reason why I don't like seeing my job in like new environments is that I don't want there to be someone who is like a senior doctor around.
Yeah, because it seems like you're pulling the rank card, right?
Correct.
The job card, and then they'll pull the rank card, and then
correct. And there's this whole thing in medicine where I think people are very, very harsh on people who are junior to them.
Yeah, we should totally go into that in another episode one day.
That's another talk for another day. So I guess let's end off on this question, this pointed question. Do you think you'd do this again, this being medicine, knowing all that you know now?
Honestly, yeah, I mean, I thought about it before. I think I 100% still would choose medicine for very pragmatic reasons now. Like, I mean, you want a job that gives you sufficient fulfillment, that you're able to create a positive impact in society, and that still gives you enough financial stability to survive in like an expensive country like Singapore. So yeah, I would pick it all over again and still make the same choices. Yeah, what about you now that you're in the thick of it?
I would say yes. I would self-sabotage again. I would ruin myself financially again, because I suppose I can say that I've to some degree gotten to experience the things I was looking for in terms of the impact. I got to see some of the experience and enjoy some of, I suppose, the hygiene factors that make the profession a decent place to be. The job market is not good these days. I've not had to worry about that recently or in a lot of time. Yes. And I suppose at the end of the day, I guess it does give you a good set of perspectives and life experiences to go into, whatever environment you want to go into. In the entrepreneurship space, you meet people who are serial entrepreneurs, you meet people who are, retired bankers, you meet people who are I don't know, like retired professionals from anywhere. A lot of people who come out of the forces, and I feel like everyone brings their something to the table. And as long as I can bring my something to the table and do it well, then I think life will be okay, hopefully.
Yeah, life will be okay.
All right.
So that's it for today's episode. Thanks for listening, and yeah, we'll see you in the next one.